Hey there, Joe Braun here, the DCS Mech Warriors. In this video, we're going to take a DC motor and attach that to a joystick. So we're going to jump right in. Let me go ahead and get to my screen. In the previous video, we took a DC motor and attached that to buttons. So I'm going to actually open up that particular one, or actually make a copy of it. I don't need to open it. So I've navigated to team code, Java, the team code folder, and then we have a package name under there called YouTube, where we created motor 1 in yesterday's video. So I'm going to come down here and click copy, and then I'm going to go back up to YouTube and paste that into this directory or package name directly into Java. So I'm going to change 1 to 2 because we're going to call today's motor 2. So I'm going to click OK, and it's going to create a copy of what we did yesterday. And now we're going to take some notes here in just a second and make some changes to that. So let me go ahead and open that up. So DC motor with joystick, I'm going to move this down just like I've done in previous videos so we can see those top and bottom. So the one up top is the one that we're going to be editing, and the one down bottom here is my notes. So let me scroll to the top here. The first thing that we want to do is go ahead and add a note to our configuration file setup. Now, again, this does not change the configuration file. It just gives us a place to document everything that needs to be done there. So we're going to type in motor, well, if I can spell it right, motor port, and we're going to plug this into 01 on the control hub, and we're going to call it motor 2. So we have our variable name that we're going to use in Java and also in our configuration file in the hardware map. The next thing that we're going to take a look at, these things are going to stay the same. We've discussed those before, so just move on from that. We do need to go ahead, well, the class name is done. We need to go ahead and get our variables set. We have motor 1 variables, but we don't have any motor 2 variables. So let me come down here and I'm going to copy those, and I'm going to paste those in right below motor 1. So again, we're calling the class DC motor for motor 2. We're going to set it 0 power to 0. And on this one, because we're using a stick, we're going to go ahead and put in sensitivity like we did on the servo videos, so that we can control how aggressive or light the stick is in comparison to setting the power on the actual DC motor itself. So we'll get to that here in a second. The big picture inside run op mode is going to be exactly the same as in yesterday's videos, so we don't need to make any changes there. We are going to make some changes inside each one of these method calls, but the overall big picture is the same. We're adding another DC motor, so we need to add that to our method stack. So we're going to create in just a second a method called init motor 2. And then that will be a function call, end it with a semicolon. It will be in red because we haven't created that function yet. For this one, what we're going to do is go ahead and copy motor 1. So if you already have one set up, you can just copy that instead of having to retype everything. But because we are using the same name here, it's going to have a line underneath. So let's go ahead and change that. And we want to then go ahead and change the variable name. So this one, we don't want to be motor 1 now, so we're going to change that to motor 2. And then I'm going to come up here and control click on it, and then paste each one of these motor 1s as motor 2. And then come over here to our configuration file name that's in our hardware map and change that also, just like we did yesterday. And I think everything is set except for going through each one of these settings to make sure that those are the way that we want those. So let's go ahead and start on this particular one. I can't remember if we did reverse. Yeah. Just to change things up, we're going to do reverse right here. So I just type rev and push tab to reverse it. This is 0 power for motor 1. Now in this case, both of those are set to 0, and it wouldn't be a big difference if I forgot to change this, but to be consistent, let's go ahead and put in 0 power motor 2. Now, if I push enter, I don't think I've gone over this before. If I push enter, it's going to add on what I'm actually pushing enter on, but then it doesn't delete what was there before. So you've got 0 power, 0 power. So let me come back here and put in 1 right here. and show you the right way to do that. So if I change this to 2, what I want to do is push tab. Oops, I was on the wrong one, so let me push Control Z. 2. And what I want to do is come down here on the right one and push tab instead of enter. And then that won't add on the extra piece, 0 power, 0 power again. It'll just put in the variable name that I'm selecting. So it took me a little time to learn that one. I was always pushing enter and then I have to delete extra keystrokes. Just a little bit of a time saver, but not a big deal if you don't follow that one. On this particular one, we're going to change to float. And the difference for that, again, is brake uses the motor to slow it down to 0. It's 0 power for the motor. Float will just coast to a stop. However long it takes to come to a stop is how long it takes. So we're going to put this one on float for this particular motor just to change things up. We do want to go ahead and set our encoder to 0. So wherever this motor starts on a nit, that will be the 0 point for the encoder. We're not really using encoders right now. You'll see that more in the next video when we run to position. But then we're going to take our mode. Instead of running without encoder, this time we're going to run using an encoder. And so I'm going to paste that in there. So run using encoder uses the PID to manage the speed of the motor in the background. I did have some notes in yesterday's video, pasted those in here also to kind of tell you the difference between those. If you want to pause the video and take a read through that, or just go to yesterday's video and you can listen to the explanation. But we'll move forward at the moment. So we see here that we have motor 1 functionality set up inside our teleop controls. And what we want to do now is up here we created the init to use the motor and set it up, but we haven't actually added any functionality to the gamepad. So what we want to do that now is with this line of code right here, very similar to a servo. So if you remember from back then, what we did, this is very similar to that. So we're taking motor 2, we're setting its power to whatever gamepad 2 right stick Y is giving us. So again, gamepad 2, we did switch from motors to gamepad 2. And then we're multiplying that times a decimal. So that reduces this signal by whatever percentage we put in up top on this motor sensitivity. So I'm going to hold down control, push on this variable, and it takes me up there. And so it shows me that we're setting that to 50%. So say that's still too aggressive and we want to slow that down a little bit. We could change it to 0.3 or we can change it to 0.25. So for this video, we'll just leave it at 0.5. I think you get the idea there. So let me scroll back down. So that sets our functionality to control this motor 2 on the right stick Y of gamepad 2. And then the only other thing we would want to do is change the data telemetry being output to our driver hub. And so what we're going to do, we're going to assume number 1 is done, motor 1 is done. So we're going to control / and comment that out. We don't have that telemetry data on the driver hub anymore. But if we wanted to put it back, all we have to do is undo the comment. We're going to push an enter, and then we are going to come down here and copy. I'm hesitating because what I would do in class, I wouldn't necessarily copy my notes. What the students would be doing on their computer, let me undo this. So I'm going to push Control Z and undo this comment here. There we go. What we would do is actually copy this and then come down here and push paste, or alternative version, if you haven't watched previous videos, if I push Control D, it will duplicate that from one line to the next. And then what we can do is come in here and change all of these to 2s instead of me just cheating and coming down here to the notes. We would want to do the same thing up here on the variable name. And I pushed tab and it got too aggressive, so let me change that back. Just type it out. And then this one would be a 2 also. And then looks like that is all set. Just double checking through there. Okay, so this video is pretty short just because we've established all the terms and stuff in previous videos. But now we have a motor 2 attached to a stick. We have motor 1 attached to buttons. So if you're following, you could technically use the same motor over and over again, just change it from one port to the next if you only have one motor to try this out with. But if you have two motors, you've got one on port 0 and you've got one on port 1, and you have both those motors being able to be controlled by different functionality on gamepad 2. So I think that's it for this particular video. If I remember right, we're running to position in the next video. Yep, looks like that. So if you're interested in finding out how to set that up, go ahead and tune back into the video series on the very next one, and we will catch you later. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.